Good Tuesday, everyone, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF and Beltima Fungicide, the proven #1 for the toughest corn diseases with long-lasting residual when you need to be confident your fungicide will perform. I'm Joe Everett. Well, currently already 67 degrees outside here at the farm this morning, and it's going to be a hot one today and over the next couple of days here in the Buckeye State. We'll have your full forecast update coming up shortly. Also, mark your calendars to join us on Friday, July 17th, during the midday program as Powered by Soy Biodiesel. The Field Leader Roadshow makes a stop in Marion County at the farm of Mike Ralph. Field Leader is a project of the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Now looking at your agricultural news headlines, we first get an update of the Product of the USA label. Then we look at Ohio State University's study and how it examines bean leaf beetle damage. Then we see how rainfall has been benefiting developing crops in today's Ohio Crop Progress Report. That's all coming up in today's news feed, which is delivered to you by Edwards Field Seeds. Proven local seed performance to Ohio farmers, it's time to start planting Edwards. Call us at 937-473-2521 or visit online at edwardsseeds.com. More meat processors are adopting the USDA's Product of the USA label. We get an update from Brianna Smith.
More meat processors are signing on to USDA's voluntary Product of USA label program. 10 additional meat and poultry processors have adopted the label, which is designed to help consumers identify products that are truly sourced and processed in the United States. Under updated USDA standards that took effect this year, the label can only be used on meat, poultry, and egg products from animals that were born, raised, harvested, and processed in the United States. Previously, imported products could sometimes carry similar claims if they underwent processing domestically. USDA says the change gives shoppers greater confidence that they are supporting American farmers and ranchers when purchasing products with the label. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins says every company that adopts the program represents another win for America's ranchers, processors, and rural communities. The label remains voluntary, but USDA officials say participation continues to grow as consumers seek more transparency about where their food comes from and how it was produced. Reporting for Ohio's Country Journal and Ohio AgNet, I'm Brianna Smith.
Thanks, Brianna. An Ohio State University study examines bean leaf beetle damage and movement in soybean fields. Dr. Kelly Tillman is a professor in the Department of Entomology at the Ohio State University College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. She sits down and talks with Dusty Sonnenberg about the Soybean Checkoff funded study on bean leaf beetle pod feeding and migration. Here's a clip.
Bean leaf beetles are a familiar pest in soybean, and earlier in the season they cause largely cosmetic damage by feeding on leaves. That is seldom economic, but when they are more important economically is later in the season when they feed on pods. And that is a problem because it can damage the seed directly, and it also opens up the pod and the seed to diseases. And so pod feeding later in the season is really the bigger threat from bean leaf beetle.
Again, that was Dr. Kelly Tillman, a professor at The Ohio State University. To hear more from this conversation, you can find it today at ohioagnet.com. Well, timely rainfall has been benefiting developing corn and soybeans. Let's get a look at those numbers. The Ohio Crop Progress Report is sponsored by Relentless Ag, every acre at peak performance. Learn more at relentlessag.com. Corn silking has reached 17% ahead of the last week's 5% and trending right along with the 17% 5-year average. Ohio corn condition was rated 64% good to excellent, with 53% good and 11% excellent. As we look at soybeans, blooming reached 25% ahead of the 14% last week, but behind the 33% average. Soybean pod setting has reached 6%, just behind the 7% average, while soybean condition was rated 63% good to excellent. As we look at winter wheat, it is 76% harvested, which is right in line with the 76% 5-year average. To get more on these numbers, you can find the full report today at ohioagnet.com. The Ohio Crop Progress Report is sponsored by Relentless Ag. Well, it's going to be a hot one here in the Buckeye State over the next couple of days. Let's get a check on that forecast. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct, the #1 fastest growing and largest Ohio-based independent seed company. Here's Ryan Martin.
Sunny, warm, and humid over the next few days. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. I've got no precipitation in my forecast at all from today right on through Friday. There may be a little bit of cloud cover that pops up Friday overnight, but the moisture that's available there, not enough to get me excited about some scattered showers or storms at this point. If we don't see anything there, we're dry for Saturday and for the first part of Sunday as well. Now, once we get into the Sunday afternoon and Monday time frame, we see scattered showers and storms developing, some strong, maybe a few severe. Those linger all the way through Tuesday, combined over the multi-day stretch, 1/4 to 1.5 inches with coverage at around 80 to 90% of Ohio. Behind that, we are dry for the rest of next week. Let's talk temperatures here nearby. We are very warm, but the key here is the next few days, dew points are climbing as well, so very muggy, very humid. Not very nice to be outside, but not quite as hot as a few weeks ago. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Now we get an update on an Ohio Soybean Association award. Here's Dusty Sonnenberg.
The Ohio Soybean Association recently announced their Conservation Award. Now, applications are available for the inaugural OSA Conservation Award, and it recognizes Ohio soybean farmers who have gone above and beyond in implementing conservation practices that are both environmentally responsible and economically beneficial. Now, the selected recipient will represent Ohio in the American Soybean Association Conservation Legacy Award competition. That's offering an opportunity for national recognition. And most recently, Ohio farmer Les Seiler from Fulton County was honored as the 2023 National Award recipient. Now, in addition to statewide recognition, the Ohio Soybean Association Conservation Award winner will receive a complimentary 1-year subscription to Clarity Pro, courtesy of BAM Weather. Now, applications are open to Ohio Soybean Association members and must be submitted by August the 14th. To apply, simply go to soyohio.org and click on the banner at the top that says Apply for the Ohio Soybean Association Conservation Award. If you've got questions about the award, membership status, or joining the Ohio Soybean Association, contact Wendy at WHOVEY@soyohio.org. Reporting for the Ohio AgNet, I'm Dusty Sonnenberg.
Thanks, Dusty. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more next here on the Ohio AgNet.
The way farmers get their information is expanding, and now there's a new dimension of farm news for the Buckeye State. Ohio AgNet TV. Learn from other farmers, see products and practices in action, and stay connected to what is happening both locally and nationally. Plus, watch expanded video coverage throughout the growing season and beyond with regular updates from the field and stories that highlight the people, issues, and innovations driving Ohio agriculture. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe now on YouTube by searching Ohio AgNet TV, where Ohio agriculture comes to life.
You're tuning in on the Ohio AgNet. I'm Joe Everett. Now we check in with Ty Higgins on fungicide timing for corn in today's featured audio.
As we move into the middle part of the growing season, farmers are keeping a close eye on crop conditions, making decisions that can impact yield potential at harvest. One of those decisions is whether a fungicide application makes sense in corn and soybeans. Joining us today, Luke Schulte, an agronomist with Beck's Hybrids, to talk about what farmers should be watching for as they evaluate fungicide decisions in their fields. Luke, always great to see you. Welcome in.
Yeah, good morning, Ty.
The timing aspect of this is so important. What are we considering there, and what have you found through your PFR research about when we apply fungicides?
Yeah, so if we look at from a timing perspective, Ty, when we look at in our PFR research, we found R1 with more of a going in it blindly, so to speak, not scouting, looking at more of a plant health type of application. That R1 has been the most consistently positive and highest ROI. However, that's just going into it blindly. That's not taking into account what have we endured with crown rot, what type of situation are we in with nitrogen loss. In some cases, another thing is nitrogen applications from a sidedress standpoint got delayed till V6-7, where we've seen V3 has been much more consistently positive. So if we're going into it blindly, we've seen R1, so silking, be the most profitable. But I think there's a couple things to keep in mind while you may want to possibly move it forward, or more notably, maybe even move it later. If nitrogen is a limitation, you're concerned, we know nitrogen drives more successful silk elongation and therefore better, more complete pollination. We may want to move that up to maybe to like a V18. So that's the last leaf ahead of tassel. to a VT. Try to minimize that stress so that we have a longer period of time for those silks to catch and synchronize with that pollen shed. And then also, perhaps we want to delay. So our agronomy team has spoke with a guy up at Ohio State that did his PhD work around gibbia mold and vomitoxin. And vomitoxin's obviously become a high degree of concern. In fact, it's top of mind for many growers, even though the last couple of years we haven't had much. He informed us, I didn't know this, a week after silking, up to 3 weeks. So a 2-week window is our most susceptible period for vomitoxin. And we know fungicides that contain a strobilurin, which quite frankly is almost all of them. The only one I can think of right now that we use it with on a wide scale is Lucento, does not have a strobilurin, but we know strobilurins can actually enhance more vomitoxin. So I think we want to be mindful to also purposely avoid that 2-week window, which starts about a week after silking and culminates 3 weeks after silking. I really want to try to avoid that. 5 years ago, that just wasn't doable. Now that we're doing so much more with, high clearance machines, John Deere still kits, millers, and drones. We're doing a ton of work with drones in our industry, not just BACs, but many farmers own drones now. So it's much more achievable to actually purposely either apply it a little bit earlier if we're concerned about pollination, whether it's heat or lack of nitrogen, or purposely delay it so that we're no longer within that potential window to maybe make vomitoxin worse. And with the moisture we've had, I'm certainly not going to go out on a limb to say we're going to have vomitoxin, but with the moisture we've had, it appears we're likely going to continue to have for the next 30 days, at least by prognostications. I think we have to be mindful. We really want to avoid that 2-week window because it does look like we're set up for the potential for a gibbia mold and maybe a year where we've had more vomitoxin as opposed to the last 2 growing seasons for most farmers.
Luke Schulte, an agronomist with Beck's Hybrids, our guest here on the Ohio AgNet. As always, Luke, appreciate the insights and thanks so much for taking time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ty, for that update. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more as the Ohio AgNet continues.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered. Always online and always no reserve. It's your destination for construction or ag equipment ready to work. We even sell semis, trailers, and fleet equipment for your operation. Best part? It's free to join. Head to purplewave.com. That's purplewave.com. Sign up for a free account and start bidding today. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
Life on the farm moves fast, and so does the news that matters to you. Stay ahead with the Digital Daily from Ohio AgNet and Ohio's Country Journal. Each morning, get the top ag headlines, market trends, weather updates, and the stories shaping Ohio agriculture, all delivered right to your inbox. It's free, it's easy, and it keeps you informed before the day gets going. Sign up now at ohioagnet.com for the Digital Daily and get yours first thing in the morning.
Welcome back on the Ohio AgNet. I'm Joe Everett. It's now time for today's market analysis, which is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to bring the brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets were mixed yesterday to start the week. Weaker on the wheat markets, Chicago, KC, and Minneapolis, but we did see a gain in corn and beans. Off of the highs for the day, though. Let's start with yesterday afternoon's crop progress report. 68% good to excellent this week on corn. That's up 1 point from last week. Soybeans, 65% good to excellent, up again 1 point from last week. There was not much else to talk about. Winter wheat harvest, 67% done compared to 59% last year and actually last week, and 62% last year. What else was the market looking at yesterday? Honestly, China was in looking at buying some soybeans above South American FOB values or offers overall. And for the week ending July 9th, the U.S. did end up with about 60.5 million bushels of corn being shipped, 15.4 million bushels of beans, and 13.7 million bushels of wheat. The corn export pace is surpassing what we need to hit USDA targets. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Now let's take a look at your overnight trade. September corn, 437.5, down 3.5. December corn, 459.25, down 4 cents. As we turn to soybeans, August, 1191.25, down 5.5. November soybeans, 1189.25, down 5.5. And September wheat, 636.75, up 1.5. As we look to livestock from yesterday's close, August live cattle, $234.72, down 47 cents. July lean hogs, $94.77, no change. And September feeder cattle, $350.82, down 20 cents. This is the Ohio AgNet